Okay, well, we're just getting some messages on Twitter now, and I'll take one of them. This gentleman here, Anthony Abuogbe, says talking underage marriage in Nigeria is cultural, not religion. And if he says his name is Anthony Ogbe, he's saying his mom gave birth to him at 14.
That's, you know, I said it that those days, even our parents didn't know at what age. When my mother died, we had to do a mental calculation. You know, look at the photographs when we were born, you know, just imagine how old she would be at that time. It was a cultural thing. Even till now, in some villages, it is practiced. Your parents presume you to be of age. And so, in spite of the fact, even when we delete this, we should not just rest there. We should go further to ensure that, you know, the awareness is created. And so, like I said, it was convenient for Yerima to say, this is anti-Islam, and that is the only way it could fly, you know, on the face of such opposition. Because it is also the same way it is convenient for somebody to say he's fighting Boko Haram, he's fighting the cause of Allah, and then you see condoms and pornographic movies in their camp. Because that's the only idea you can sell to the layman that he will understand. We all understand that religious language. It's a cultural thing. And in the South, because of education and enlightenment, it's gradually being phased out, because people are now beginning to say, look, I saw that Mrs. Vero's daughter, who used to be in the village, but she went abroad to Lagos. She's now a medical doctor, and she came, and so I want my daughter to be like that. So please, Papa, I want this girl to be a doctor. Go and look for the money. You cannot marry her out now. So people are beginning to stand up for the eradication of such practices because of westernization. But some people who still believes that, even though they are own, because go and check records, I have never seen a rich Muslim man who marries the daughter out at underage. They always take them abroad for further education.
So you're saying education
it's
very a key role
here.
Now
go and check records in the north. You never see scholarships came from even those rich people, because what they do, it's convenient for you to be up there, and every other person comes ranka dedisa. So you want to remain the bourgeois, you know, in the society, in the environment, so every other person can they still, this oligarchy system is still very right. And for us to be able to eradicate this, you need to educate the mind.
Okay.
And so that's where education plays a very key role.
All right, let me ask Dr. Odumake then. If we move on to the issue of the number of states that have accepted the Child Rights Act, we've got 24 at the moment.
Yes.
The remaining 12 all seem to be in the northern part of Nigeria. What will civil society do to ensure that the rest of the country adopts and see it as a law and domesticate it within their state?
Honestly, that has been one of the things on the front burner, because having 24 states pass it, and then the remaining 12 states, as I speak, we still have Niger, Kogi, and Ebonyi still waiting for the governor to assent, you know, to that law. And then when you see the sequence of even those who voted that day for the retention of that clause, you see that all the states, Nasarawa, Kano, all of them Gombe, you know, from the north. So what we need to do now is for us again to engage in proper sensitization, education, let people realize that this is not a matter of religion, but for us to protect the child. Because even if this law, if it is passed, if it is domesticated, you find out that it's enshrined there that primary and secondary school level, it has to be free education. So people who don't even have money to send their wards to school, they can also benefit from this. So by the time we weigh the advantages, it outweighs the disadvantage. So a lot of work that we need to do, because if you look at it, is the sequence, all of them are in the north. So we need to do a lot of work. Let the people there realize that this is not a matter of religion, but it's a matter of future. We have to, if we are part of those who ratified the Convention of the United Nations, if we want to be a part, if we want to compete effectively, if we don't want to keep ourselves in that retrogressive aspect, we have to make sure that this law is passed. So we need lots of education, enlightenment, and all those that have been voted there, they also need to realize that if they do not protect the interest of the girl child, because most of them have they cannot marry out their girls, their children
yes.
at that age. You see, a lot of them are educated because they know the implication. And I want to tell you that those who suffer from fiscal-vaginal fistula, whereby urine will be dispersed at the moment the person has that disease, that person is put abandoned in a corner, and another person is taken. So that is the thing. And like I said, that according to the Health Demographic Survey, about 12,000 yearly suffer from such. Wow. So what will be their lots? And so there's a need for us to engage vigorously in more enlightenment so that this can be passed. We've been doing that, but we have to do a lot more.
Okay. Thanks, Doctor. Let me quickly ask you. Now, Deji Falaye says, how will you reconcile the customary laws of Nigeria that allow many wives vis-a-vis the Nigerian Marriage Act?
Yes, now, I think recently, was it last year, Lagos State outlawed bigamy. Customary marriage is a form of marriage in Nigeria. It's recognized, because it defines, if you're defining marriage, so customary law marriage is recognized as a form of marriage. And so some people presumably believe that once I marry under customary law, and then I can now go and marry under the act. I had a matter like that. I handled a court 3 in Shagam. And then the judge said, look, this second marriage is not even a marriage at all, because there is a subsisting marriage. And so you cannot contract another one. But here, because of impunity, we just believe that once my custom, my tradition allows me to marry as many as I can. And in most cases, what you have a consent of these women. That look, when you are not, when you don't consent, they say you are self-centered, you don't want to share. That is a tradition. You want to be the only wife and all of that. And so that's why Lagos State had to expunge it from their law books, that since 1960, no woman had come up to say, I'm married to this man and he's going to marry another one. And so it is a situation where, you have laws conflicting, but we consent to it.
So has anybody now, since the bigamy law has been enacted in Lagos State, has any woman... it's being outlawed?
Yes, it's been outlawed. Yes. So since there are no complaints, there's no... What's the essence of keeping it in our books when, you hardly invoke the law? And so what happens is... But it still does not, because you still have the Marriage Act that, outlaws, that still makes it an offense for you to, if you have a subsisting marriage, to marry another. So under the act, you can still be charged for bigamy, in spite of the fact that you say Lagos State have expunged it from their
So you can't have 2 wives, is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
You're saying...
If the woman, if you marry under the law, or you marry customarily, and you now decide to bring in another one, the first one can ask for a divorce, that look, we were married legally, but he's decided to go contract another marriage. I just told you, I had a matter like that at the court. And the judge ruled that the second marriage was not even a marriage in the first place. So I shouldn't be asking for a dissolution, because I should be asking for annulment, because it was not a marriage contracted properly in the first place.
Wow.
Because it is only when you have a subsisting marriage that you say dissolve. But when the marriage is contracted on a fraudulent foundation, what you should do, a faulty foundation, what you should do is to annul the entire thing altogether, to say, look, there was nothing, there was no process there at all. So if you say I should dissolve, that means you recognize that there's a subsisting marriage. And so these all are the problems of enlightenment, because we need also some people, when they raise, that's why even the Senate could be blackmailed into believing that it's a religious thing. Because of enlightenment, they are not aware that, look, this even parents, it's easy to blackmail them as an Islamic thing. And so Islam allows it. Once you're doing it, God is happy with you. And so since God is happy with you, you will get your reward. But the moment they know that they are endangering the life of these children, that it's not an Islamic thing, others are educating theirs, you're endangering yours, it will be easy for them to jettison it. But when you blindfold them with religion and say, look, just the same way we blindfold us with culture in years back, and now they've been enlightened to say, no, look, I will not agree to it. In the same way, we can spread the enlightenment to ensure that the message gets even to the grassroots.
To the grassroots.
Because these people will sit up there, and it's like you have a governor or a senator who sits up there, and then he covers the lot under with, you know, a big bed sheet. And then they only see him once in a while when he opens the bed sheet for them to peep. And so they see him as a spirit, as a savior. And then he would, anytime there's a message, he tells them, I am your voice, I'm the voice of God to you. And so they're no longer seeing him as a human being, they see him as God in form of man.
Okay.
And so it is difficult to criticize whatever he does. But when you enlighten them that, look, what you're doing, you're saving yourself, you remove the veil. And so it will be easy to connect.
Right.
Okay. Now, let's look at one of the emails that we've got. And it's also, I will not make judgment on this. I'll just say exactly what Lotana Nwodo from Abuja says. It says, in states in Nigeria where Child Rights Act has not been adopted, it is very legal to marry a minor as long as the parents of the minor consent.
No.
Because there is a need. Again, we're talking of issue of enlightenment here.
No, you have a federal law. You know, you have a federal law. For the fact that the states had not domesticated, it does not mean that the federal law is not in operation. You cannot close your eyes to the fact that there is a law, a Child Right Act, that makes it an offense. For the fact that you say, okay, for the purpose of driving the message home that there's need for us to domesticate it, and it has not been domesticated, does not mean that the Federal Attorney General can still not take out, you know, a charge against such a person.
So the continuation of Lieutenant Nwodo in Abuja's summation that Yerima has not done anything criminal, unless, of course, Zamfara State adopts Child Rights
Even
Act.
if let's stretch it further, Yerima is resident in
Abuja.
And so Yerima is not resident in
Zamfara.
For the purpose of domiciliation in Nigeria, Yerima is domiciled in Abuja. And so if the Child Rights Act is in operation in Abuja and Yerima is domiciled in Abuja, Yerima has married a minor in Abuja, and you're now telling me that Yerima has not contravened, you know, the laws.
So let's stretch it a bit further and say that Yerima's wife is actually in Zamfara, not living in Abuja.
Even Yerima,
and that being the
Yerima
case,
contracted the marriage. Yerima contracted the marriage. Yerima is the person that had committed an offense, not the woman,
wife,
because she doesn't have a consent. So the man that had committed an offense is domiciled in Abuja, and then you're saying what you're saying now is that you stretch it further to say Yerima contracted the marriage in Zamfara,
and the wife is there.
The wife is there, and then but he's domiciled in Abuja. And you have a federal act that covers Zamfara and even Abuja. So this is logic that you cannot stretch, you know, beyond, you know, what you're saying. There are laws that, you know, cover this. If we take it from that point of view, you now begin to say that even though there's a federal act, a matter that is on the concurrent legislative list that the state can legislate on and the Federal House of Assembly can legislate on, and once the Federal House of Assembly has legislated on it, when there's a conflict, the Federal Act supersedes that of the State Act.
Okay.
And so that's the position.
All right.
So
thank you very much. Your final word, Dr. Joe Keodumaki.
My final word is that just like the people of Ondo State stood up and told Senator Adefuruje that it was all over for him and he wept, we want the people in the hollow chambers to realize, although that child has not been passed in Enugu too, but none of their senators voted, you know, for the retention. We want to use this avenue to say that the first and foremost, we want the deletion of section 29(4)(b) of the Constitution for the girl child.
Okay. Your final word?
My final word is that Nigerians should see that the people, vox populi, vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God. And that if we are united on an issue, that we can win. And so we should not just leave it with the Child Right Act or leave it with Section 29. We should go a whole lot further, because there are so many issues to be changed in as far as our constitution is concerned. And so we should always be united for the Nigerian people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're so delighted to have Dr. Joe K. Odumake in the studio to talk passionately about the Child Rights Act, and also Mr. Liberos Oshoma is a legal practitioner. They both believe that Section 29, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended should be expunged totally, so we can uphold the rights of the child in the country.